Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Y&R Trends. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Lily's hands trembled slightly, though only barely, as she stepped into the dimly lit room where Kane had been pacing, his phone clutched tightly in one hand, his jaw rigid, eyes darting to the doorway as if expecting someone or everyone to appear at any moment, and when their eyes finally met, it was as if the air itself thickened, the silence between them so heavy it pressed against Lily's chest with a force that made her nearly stagger back. But she did not, because today she would no longer be silent, today she would no longer be manipulated or kept in the dark. And she squared her shoulders and lifted her hand in a movement that was both instinctive and deliberate, striking Kane across the cheek with a sharp, echoing slap that seemed to reverberate not only through the room but through every secret, every lie, every whispered conversation they had shared over the years, the impact carrying with it the weight of years of betrayal, confusion, and unspoken tension. And Kane's head jerked to the side, his expression frozen somewhere between shock, disbelief, and a flicker of guilt, and for a moment, neither of them spoke, as if words themselves might shatter the fragile veneer of composure they both tried desperately to maintain. And Lily's chest heaved as she forced herself to inhale, the scent of his cologne mixed with the faint tang of fear making her stomach twist in a way that was almost physical, almost painful, but she pushed through it, knowing that whatever came next could change everything, could expose truths so deep and so dangerous that even mentioning them aloud might cause irreparable damage. And yet she knew she had to, because the walls of deception had grown too thick, the masks too suffocating, and the time for subtlety, for careful diplomacy, for half-truths and avoidance was over. And so she stepped closer, her eyes locking on his with a precision that was almost predatory, a fire burning there that Kane had never seen before. And she began to speak, her voice low but cutting through the tension like a knife. Kane, you think you can play everyone, manipulate everyone, hide behind smiles and charm, but I see you. I've always seen you. And today I'm taking off the mask, not yours, not the ones you wear so easily for others, but the mask you forced her to wear. The mask that has been keeping Phyllis's true face, her intentions, her secrets from all of us, and it ends now. And she paused for a breath, though her heart hammered as if it could burst through her chest, her fingers clenching into fists at her sides, nails digging into palms to anchor herself to the moment, because she could feel Kane's tension spike, his body stiffen, and she knew she had him right where she needed. The subtle shift in his stance, the tightening of his jaw, the slight narrowing of his eyes betraying that her words had hit their mark, that the illusion of control he believed he wielded so effortlessly was slipping, even as he tried to maintain his composure, to summon a charm, a retort, a defense that could negate the damage. But Lily pressed on relentless, because this was not about politeness or appearances or even revenge. This was about truth, about finally letting the light shine into the corners where shadows had festered far too long. You've been manipulating her. Just like you manipulate everyone, Kane. You've twisted her words, redirected her loyalties, fed her half-truths while keeping her blind to the full story. And she trusted you, maybe even loved you, but it was never genuine, was it? It was always a game, a performance, and today the performance ends. And she could see his fingers twitch, the tension in his shoulders, the flicker of panic in his eyes that betrayed the calm exterior he was trying to maintain. And in that moment, Lily's mind raced back to every subtle hint, every glance, every word that had ever seemed off, every small betrayal that she had rationalized away to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to preserve some fragile illusion of family, friendship, love, all of which now seemed like fragile threads in a web of deceit spun by Kane. And she could almost feel the scales falling from her eyes, the clarity coming at last after months of uncertainty and whispered doubts. And it was intoxicating but also terrifying, because she knew the truth she was about to unleash would not only shock Kane but everyone else. Phyllis, Nick, Sharon, the whole network of relationships that had been carefully constructed over the years in Genoa City, all of it now teetering on the edge of chaos. And yet she felt no hesitation, only resolve as she continued. Phyllis has been hiding behind a mask, Kane, one you forced her to wear, one that kept her from showing anyone her true self, and now I see it. I see everything she's been hiding, everything you've been hiding, and it's time for the world to see too. And she stepped even closer, the anger and determination in her voice cutting sharper than any blade, making Kane take an involuntary step back, because he realized, finally, that this was not a threat, this was not a warning, this was an unveiling, a reckoning. and in that moment Lily could almost feel the walls of deceit crumbling, almost taste the chaos about to be unleashed as she revealed, in one breath, the culmination of all her suspicions, all her research, all the gut feelings that had kept her awake at night. You wanted to control her, to use her, to keep everyone fooled. But the truth is stronger than any lie, stronger than your charm, stronger than your manipulation. And I am done letting you dictate the narrative, Cain. The mask is off and everyone will see Phyllis for who she really is, and that includes you. And Cain's face shifted through a range of emotions, shock, anger, fear, perhaps even shame. But Lily did not flinch, did not waver, because the moment demanded total courage, and as she spoke, the tension in the room became almost unbearable, the air thick with anticipation and dread, as though the very walls themselves were holding their breath in expectation of the fallout to come. And as she watched Cain's composure fracture as his defenses faltered, she could see the truth of her words piercing him, cutting through his carefully constructed exterior, and she felt a thrill, a dangerous, exhilarating sense of power tempered by fear, because she knew the repercussions of this revelation would ripple through everyone's lives, change alliances, shift loyalties, and potentially destroy relationships that had seemed unshakable. And yet, she could not stop now, for once she had begun, she had to see it through. She had to speak every unspoken truth, expose every hidden motive, and in that endless moment, she realized that this was not just about her or Cain, not just about Phyllis, but about justice, about integrity, about ensuring that the truth, no matter how shocking or painful, was finally laid bare for all to see. And as she took a deep, steadying breath, her voice rising slightly with the weight of her conviction, she finished. No more lies, no more manipulation, no more masks. 00000000000 Phyllis will no longer be hidden, and neither will you. The tension in the room was almost unbearable, thick like fog, curling around every piece of furniture, wrapping itself around Lily's chest, making her heartbeat pound like a drum in her ears as she kept her gaze locked on Cain, whose eyes had widened at the slap she had delivered, that sharp, unforgiving mark of judgment that carried with it years of unspoken resentments, unacknowledged betrayals, and simmering anger that Lily had held in her chest, refusing to allow herself the luxury of confronting until now. And now, standing mere feet away, she could see him falter, the slightest twitch of a muscle, the shallow inhale through his nose, the sudden rigidity of his stance betraying the storm behind the calm facade he tried to maintain, and for a moment, the world seemed suspended, as if even the walls of the Chancellor Mansion were holding their breath, waiting for the inevitable fallout that would ripple across every life tangled in this web of deception, manipulation, and half-truths that Cain had so meticulously crafted. And Lily felt a thrill of vindication mingled with fear, knowing full well that her words, her actions, would not only unmask Cain but also shatter the illusions Phyllis had been living under, illusions she had clung to for safety, for security, for a sense of belonging that Cain had cruelly twisted to serve his own ambitions. And as Lily's chest rose and fell with controlled breaths, she allowed herself to step closer, letting the fire in her eyes burn, letting the strength she had cultivated over months, over years, carry her forward as she began to speak again, her voice steady yet imbued with a simmering intensity that Cain could not ignore. You've manipulated her, Cain. Every word, every glance, every promise was calculated, every smile was a trap, every kind gesture was a lure, and she believed in you because she wanted to believe in something real, because she trusted you. And you betrayed that trust in the cruelest way imaginable, twisting her perceptions, isolating her from those who could have protected her. And now I see it, now I understand it, and I will not allow it to continue, not for one more second. And Cain's hands twitched as if he wanted to strike, to speak, to convince her that she was wrong, but the realization of Lily's resolve seemed to paralyze him, freezing the words on his lips as he realized the scale of what she was threatening, the exposure of not just his actions but of the intricate web of lies he had woven, of the delicate facades that everyone in Genoa City relied upon to maintain their daily lives. And Lily, seeing this fracture in him, allowed herself to feel a cold satisfaction tempered with the sharp pang of anxiety, because she knew that the fallout would be catastrophic, that people would be hurt, that alliances would crumble. Yet she also knew it was necessary, unavoidable, a reckoning that had been a long time coming, a confrontation she had delayed out of compassion, hesitation, and fear of the chaos it would bring. And now, in this charged moment, all of those fears and doubts fell away, leaving only clarity, only resolve, only the knowledge that truth must be spoken no matter the cost. And so she continued, her words flowing in a relentless torrent, unbroken, unyielding. Phyllis has been wearing a mask that you forced upon her, that you nurtured, that you protected in order to manipulate everyone around her. And I will not stand for it anymore, because I see her, truly see her, and everyone else will too, and the moment that mask comes off, everything changes, and you will have to face the consequences of every deceit, every manipulation, every lie that you have ever told, every secret you have buried, every motive you have hidden. And I will not be intimidated by your charm, by your looks, by the illusion of control you think you have, because for once, Cain, the truth is mine to wield. And it cuts deeper than any slap, any accusation, any threat. And as Lily spoke, Cain's eyes flickered with a mixture of fear, anger, and desperation, a dangerous cocktail that made her realize how fragile the control he thought he had really was, how easily it could crumble under the weight of her words, and for a brief, terrifying moment, she imagined him lashing out, imagining the chaos that would ensue if he attempted to regain dominance through force, manipulation, or coercion. And yet, she did not flinch, did not step back, did not allow the slightest tremor to show, because showing fear now would be admitting weakness, and she could not afford that, not when she had built herself up from years of uncertainty into this moment of power, clarity, and righteous anger. And so she stepped even closer, the intensity in her eyes nearly tangible, the words flowing in a rhythmic cadence that seemed almost musical, almost hypnotic in the way they conveyed not just accusation but insight, not just revelation but resolution. And she continued, "You thought you could control her, control everyone, manipulate outcomes, bend people to your will, but your web of lies is unraveling, Cain, and the first thread I pull exposes the rest, and the first truth I speak ignites the rest, and I will not stop until every last lie has been stripped away, every last secret laid bare, every last deception revealed, because Genoa City deserves the truth, and I will not let you, or anyone else, stand in its way. And the mask comes off tonight, not tomorrow, not in a week, not when it is convenient, but now, because I cannot wait any longer, because the betrayal, the lies, the manipulation, the suffering, it has gone on too long, and it is my responsibility, my duty, my obligation to confront it, to expose it, to ensure that the people you have deceived, the people you have manipulated, the people whose lives you have twisted, finally understand the reality of who you are and what you have done." And Cain's face contorted, his composure crumbling in layers, each word Lily spoke cutting away a piece of the carefully constructed armor he had relied upon for so long. And as he faltered, as his confidence cracked, Lily felt a surge of power, tempered by the knowledge of the destruction she was about to unleash, and in that surge, she realized that this was not just about Cain or Phyllis or even herself, but about the entire network of relationships, secrets, and lies that had built up over years in Genoa City, each one ready to shatter in the wake of her revelation. And yet, she pressed on, relentless, determined, unyielding, speaking faster, with a cadence that carried both authority and warning. Phyllis's mask, the mask that hid her true intentions, her vulnerabilities, her fears, her desires, the mask that you nurtured and controlled, will be removed, Cain, and once it is, there is no going back, no repairing the damage, no pretending that things can stay the same, because the truth, the real truth, is stronger than any lie, more powerful than any manipulation. And it is mine to reveal, and I will not falter, I will not hesitate, I will not be silenced. For too long I have been patient, too long I have wondered, too long I have questioned, and now the time has come to act, to speak, to unmask, to expose, to ensure that no one else falls victim to your deceit, your manipulation, your lies, your power, because the moment of reckoning has arrived. And I will face it with every ounce of courage, every shred of resolve, every flicker of strength I possess. And Cain, when the truth hits, when the mask falls, when everyone sees, you will finally understand that no one is untouchable, no one is beyond consequence, no one can hide forever. And tonight the consequences begin. And the air between them seemed to vibrate with the intensity of her speech, each word carrying weight, echoing in the room, resonating with the inevitable, irreversible force of change. And as Cain's eyes darted as he opened his mouth to protest, to charm, to justify, to deny, Lily held up a single finger, cutting him off, and said with a voice that was both warning and promise, "No more lies, Cain. No more masks. Phyllis will be revealed, and everyone will know the truth starting tonight, and there is nothing you can do to stop it, because I have the courage you never anticipated, the clarity you never expected, and the truth is mine to wield, and when I speak it, the entire world will feel its force, and you will be left to reckon with the fallout, the destruction, the chaos, and the exposure, because the time for secrets is over, Cain, and the time for truth has arrived, and I am its herald. And, with that, Lily turned sharply, her heels clicking on the polished floor like the tolling of a bell, each step a declaration, each breath a testament to her resolve, leaving Cain frozen, stunned, powerless, and in that suspended moment, the weight of her words hanging like storm clouds over the city, she realized that nothing in Genoa City would ever be the same again, that the alliances, friendships, romances, and rivalries would all be reshaped by the truth she had just unleashed, and even as fear, anxiety, and anticipation coursed through her, she walked forward with certainty, knowing that in revealing the truth, in stripping away the mask, she had acted not just for herself, but for everyone who had been deceived, manipulated, or betrayed, and that the storm she had set in motion would reshape lives, test loyalties, break hearts, and reveal realities too long hidden, and in that, she found an unshakable, almost frightening sense of power, tempered only by the knowledge of the chaos yet to come, the heartbreak yet to unfold, and the irreversible consequences of exposing Cain and Phyllis for who they truly were. Cain stood frozen for several heartbeats, his mind racing, his chest tight as though the air itself had been sucked out of the room, and though he wanted to speak, to defend, to conjure some charm or explanation that could deflect Lily's relentless accusation, the words stuck in his throat, unwilling to form, betraying him as much as her eyes did, which glimmered with the fire of someone who had waited too long, someone who had endured too many lies, and someone who had finally decided that silence was no longer an option, and in that silence, Cain could almost hear every misstep, every hidden motive, every manipulation he had orchestrated echoing back to him, amplified by the inevitability of the revelation that Lily now wielded like a sword, sharp, unyielding, and perfectly aimed, and as she walked toward him with purpose, the rhythm of her footsteps like the toll of a bell, announcing the coming reckoning. He felt an unsettling mix of fear and exhilaration, because for all his power, all his planning, all his strategic maneuvering through the tangled lives of Genoa City, he had never faced someone with such absolute clarity, such unwavering resolve, and the knowledge that once Lily spoke, once the truth was revealed, nothing, no charm, no lie, no manipulation, could repair the damage, could restore the delicate facades he had spent years perfecting, could reverse the exposure of Phyllis's mask that he had so carefully maintained, shielding her secrets, twisting her image and manipulating her decisions in a way that had kept everyone blind to the truth of her intentions, her vulnerabilities, and now, with Lily standing before him, unafraid, unflinching, untouchable in her moral authority, Cain realized with a sinking certainty that the tide had irrevocably turned, and that he was entirely powerless in the face of her conviction, powerless not because he lacked resources, influence, or cunning, but because the truth itself had become a force beyond his control, and it demanded to be reckoned with, demanded to be seen, demanded to rip away every carefully constructed illusion, and in that moment, Cain felt a shiver of panic creep up his spine, mingled with the faintest spark of admiration, a begrudging respect for the sheer audacity, courage, and precision of Lily's onslaught, which was not merely physical, not merely verbal, but deeply psychological, striking at his ego, his identity, and the entire scaffolding of his deceit with a precision that left him staggering, reeling, exposed in a way that even years of calculated charm could not undo, and Lily, seeing the subtle tremor in his expression, the tightness in his jaw, the slight flare of his nostrils as he struggled for composure, knew she had reached him, knew that every accusation, every word, every gesture had hit its mark, and yet she pressed on relentless, because she knew that Cain's fallibility lay not in his schemes, but in the arrogance with which he assumed control, the belief that he could bend everyone to his will without repercussion, the fatal flaw of someone who underestimated the power of truth, of morality, of courage, and of someone who, like Lily, had finally resolved that enough was enough, and so she continued, her voice weaving a complex tapestry of accusation, revelation, and promise, a storm of words that wrapped around Cain's mind and refused to let go. You've treated Phyllis like a pawn, Cain, a vessel for your ambition. Character in your story, a mask to manipulate the perceptions of everyone around you, but no more. She is not yours to control, she is not your reflection, she is not your secret weapon, and today that illusion ends. The mask you forced upon her, the one you thought protected her, protected yourself, protected your twisted vision of control, is being torn away, and the truth, the raw, unflinching truth will be seen by all, Because I will not allow you to hide behind charm, behind lies, behind deceit, behind the carefully cultivated persona you have worn like armor for so long, and every lie, every betrayal, every hidden motive, every whispered manipulation will come to light, and there will be no refuge, no ally, no excuse, no charm, no justification that can protect you from what is coming, from the reckoning you have earned, from the exposure that will ripple across every corner of your life, your relationships, your reputation, because the mask is off, Cain, the truth is here, and it will not be silenced. And as she spoke, Cain's hands clenched into fists at his sides, veins standing out like cords, his mind a whirlwind of defensive strategies, desperate justifications and fleeting memories of moments he had believed were secure, untouchable, unknowable, and yet now every memory, every secret, every supposed advantage seemed fragile, laughably fragile, in the face of Lily's moral clarity, her unwavering resolve, and her ability to see past his carefully constructed illusions, and in that space the room seemed smaller, the walls closing in, as if Genoa City itself had shrunk to this moment of confrontation, of unmasking, of truth, and Cain felt both trapped and exposed, cornered by the very person he had underestimated, whose patience, intelligence, and resolve he had never fully grasped. And as he opened his mouth to respond, to assert control, to charm, to threaten, to manipulate in any way that might salvage a shred of power, Lily raised a finger, silencing him before a single syllable could escape, her gaze never wavering, never faltering, and in that silence, the power shifted entirely, the weight of the room, of the moment, of the truth now resting squarely on her shoulders, and she continued, each word deliberate, precise, unrelenting. Phyllis has been hidden, Cain, not because of who she is, but because of who you wanted her to be, because of the image you wanted to present to the world, because of the illusion of control you thought you had over everyone's perception, but it ends now. The mask falls tonight, not tomorrow, not next week, not when it is convenient, but tonight, because the truth is stronger than your manipulation, stronger than your deceit, stronger than your arrogance, and I will see that it is revealed, because Genoa City deserves the truth, because she deserves to be seen, because the people you have deceived, used, and manipulated deserve the clarity you have stolen from them for far too long, and nothing, no threat, no charm, no lie can stop it. And Cain's body stiffened, his mind racing for escape routes, strategies, explanations, diversions, anything to regain the upper hand, anything to slow the inevitability of exposure, but the reality of Lily's dominance, both moral and psychological, made all those plans crumble before they even formed, and for the first time, he felt what he had always feared in the quiet moments behind the mask of confidence and control, vulnerability, exposure, the terrifying awareness that someone finally understood him fully and would not be swayed.